Ilhan Omar takes gaslighting to another level. Check it out.
What they are doing is creating confusion, chaos. There is no justification in any of the things that they say.
When Margaret Brennan pressed her about the scale of fraud in Minnesota, the Congresswoman immediately went into deflection mode. But instead of pushing back, Margaret ended up helping the whitewashing attempt. And today, we're exposing what they left out. So, if you believe truth isn't partisan, hit the subscribe button and let's jump right into it.
There right now is a lot of heat on your state. Treasury Secretary Bessent called Minnesota ground zero for what may be the most egregious welfare scam in our nation's history to date. 85 of the 98 people who were charged by the Justice Department with this welfare scheme are Somali. And you know this. The Treasury Secretary is probing whether any of the money was somehow funneled outside the country. He actually issued new standards. He's going to make it make someone disclose if they receive public assistance when they try to wire money out of the country, and he's lowered the bar for suspicious activity. What is the practical impact of doing that in the community?
It's just creating fear. What they are doing is creating confusion, chaos, trying to intimidate people from being able to exercise their regular, normal activities that they would. There is no justification in any of the things that they say.
Oh, the audacity of claiming there's no justification is something else. We actually have a pretty good idea of where a lot of that money ended up. Some of it was used as kickbacks to keep the schemes running. Well, another portion funded lavish lifestyles for those involved. Ironically, CBS reported on it just a month before this interview. And according to court documents, the spending included, quote, luxury services, residential and commercial real estate in Minnesota, as well as property in Ohio and Kentucky, real estate in Kenya and Turkey, and international travel. Now, the rest of the money reportedly went overseas, which is something Fox 9 had documented 8 years ago.
We begin at Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, where mysterious suitcases filled with cash have become a fairly common carry-on. It's the morning of March 15th. We're chasing a tip about a man who's leaving the country. Our sources tell us he just took a carry-on bag through security that was packed with $1 million cash. You can do that as long as you fill out one of these government forms. We're told these cloak and dagger-like scenarios now happen almost weekly at MSP International. Where was the money going?
I don't know exactly where it went. But it adds up when you begin to look at how many people are involved.
In 2015, investigators documented $14 million in carry-on cash. By 2016, it had mushroomed to $84 million, and then last year, $100 million.
Now, those numbers have grown even larger since then, because in the last 2 years alone, the TSA flagged nearly $700 million in cash leaving the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport. One fraudster tied to the Feeding Our Future case was convicted of money laundering, where he wired millions to banks and companies in China, including 6 separate transfers worth more than $1 million to Chinese banks between February and July of 2021. Then you have the issue of Hawala networks, and the government is suspecting the actual terrorists get a cut from funds moved through those channels. But despite all of it, Ilhan didn't find anything suspicious and tried gaslighting the viewers into believing that there was no justification to look any further into what's really going on. Margaret wasn't much better, and she actively tried to mislead the public.
Well, the administration argues that they have to do it because the state failed to, right?
The federal government and the state have been working peacefully together and have brought justice to these 87 people that you've described. None of the search that they have conducted has produced any sort of criminal activity. They haven't been able to charge anyone as of yet.
Because the administration and many conservative allies of the administration argue that this is still ongoing. There was that conservative influencer who went out and posted this video that went viral alleging that daycare facilities were pocketing public funds.
Yeah, and as you know, he went hours where these businesses were not operating.
Yep, CBS went out and did its own
again
investigation.
creates the level of confusion and chaos that it's not necessary in a moment when we are trying to deal with a serious problem that needs serious people to be able to address it.
There was no recorded evidence of fraud, according to the CBS investigation that was conducted.
Okay, we'll get to the new charges in a minute, because there's been some interesting developments on that front. But when it comes to Margaret and the CBS investigation that found no recorded evidence of fraud, she's basically cherry-picking a single line from an entire article. After Nick's video went viral, they did their own analysis of nearly a dozen daycare centers mentioned by Shirley, finding all but 2 have active licenses, according to state records, which is easy to maintain. Even the Quality Learning Center had one before it suddenly shut down. But a couple of paragraphs later, they admitted, quote, CBS News visited and called several of the daycare centers on Monday, but received no responses. This raises an obvious question. Did they also go outside of operating hours? It's either that Margaret didn't bother to read her own network's reporting, or she was leaving out key details to mislead her viewers. Now, for the juicy part. The DOJ has filed new charges against 15 individuals, and the allegations are pretty shocking to say the least.
Today, we are announcing criminal charges against 15 defendants in Minnesota for fraud schemes that targeted over $90 million in taxpayer dollars. Our cases today involve 7 different state-managed Medicaid programs that have been systematically pilfered by fraudsters who treated Minnesota-run programs as their personal piggy bank. One of the programs has been completely shut down because there's no money left. It's all gone. One defendant is charged with defrauding the Integrated Community Supports Medicaid program. This program is designed to help individuals with disabilities live independently. One patient was supposed to be receiving 24-hour care through this program, but he was actually being serviced by a fraudster and received no services. This patient was later found dead. The defendant even submitted a claim of over $400 for services he never provided the day before this man died.
Well, you probably heard about this story already, because it was the same press conference where prosecutors showed the now viral video of one of the suspects limping while trying to flee from the FBI. The Assistant Attorney General also made it clear that these charges were only the beginning and part of a much broader investigation still underway. So, there you have it. Ilhan started the interview by minimizing the scale of the fraud, then ended it by mocking Shirley and claiming there hadn't been any new charges. As it turns out, everything she said aged like milk. But it makes you wonder, why would she go to such lengths to downplay what was happening? It's definitely something worth thinking about.